Premier League's back. That's a bloody relief, isn't it? One of the things I was most excited about was the Chelsea circus rolling back into town. And sure enough, it did. They lost to Man City on the weekend. There's no shame in that, obviously. But off the pitch, it is once again a complete shit show at Stamford Bridge. So first up, you got Enzo Fernandez. We've obviously talked about his racism scandal off the Copa America, where he posted that video singing a racist song about the French players. By the way, among that French squad were several of his Chelsea teammates, which probably explains why they all condemned him. They all unfollowed him on Instagram. So he's sort of spent pre-season, once he came back to Cobham, just apologising, seemingly. All very awkward. You know, he's a bit of a pariah at the club. So naturally, new manager Enzo Maresca made him club captain. Feels like a weird choice.
Obviously, he's apologised for what he did, but still, it was completely out of order and like, clearly very offensive to a number of his teammates.
I just like the idea of Enzo Maresca watching on. It's like, this guy's clearly a racist. He writes apology messages in Comic Sans, leadership material. Yeah. That's our guy. But then again, who are the obvious other captains?
I mean, Conor Gallagher was the captain last season.
And he's gone.
Which,
Sold
him. That is quite symptomatic of the whole situation at Chelsea, isn't it? That Conor Gallagher goes from... I think they were trying to sell him last summer and then didn't manage to, and then made him captain and are now selling him again, even though he was one of their best players last season.
Yeah, I guess
appoint a racist as captain.
I guess you look at the list of players, the long list of 42 first-team players, and you're like, who is going to be captain here? Does it matter?
I haven't even heard of most of them. So,
well, anyway, maybe one of the candidates might have been Raheem Sterling, but of course, he was not picked for their season opener. Raheem was not happy about not making the squad for the Man City game. He released a statement an hour before kickoff via his representatives. They said, given his inclusion in official pre-match material this week, our expectation was that Raheem would be involved in this weekend's fixture. And then they asked for clarity about his future, which I love the image they've laid out there that like Thursday morning, Raheem, here's the postman and it's the match day programme dropping on his doormat, like runs downstairs, flicks through it and it's just page after page festooned with his grinning face. And he thinks, I'm playing a key role this season.
I'm seeing him like coming into training that morning with like a copy of the match day programme in his back pocket and just like getting out, flinging it down on the table while Enzo Fernandez and Madueke are having their coffees, just like, you see he's on the cover there, boys.
Looks like it's going to be my year. And then fast forward to the team announcement on match day and he's like, I'm not even on the bench. What is going on? And you'd be annoyed. I don't know how much he was in the programme or other pre-match materials.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he was also some kind of sponsorship posts or whatever that he was in.
Yeah, some
highly questionable East Asian gambling company that does not operate in the UK, but somehow still is one of Chelsea's major sponsors.
You see your name in that ad and you think, I'm going to be first choice.
I'm Todd Bowley's man. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, as we said, Enzo Maresca has got a lot of players to pick from. 42 in the first team. You're only allowed 25 in your Premier League squad for the season. You're allowed under 21s as well, but you know that doesn't leave many spaces. That's like dozen players who need to go.
Yeah,
there's actually some really good footage that the club released of pre-season training, and it's like this packed gym, and people online were saying it looks like a branch of Fitness First on the 1st of January. You know, and you go into the gym and you're like, fuck, who are all these people? It's like a queue for each machine.
Yeah,
it's just absolutely.
It's such a funny scene.
Yeah, what is the logic? Like, are we just going for sort of NFL style rosters here?
Yeah, I mean, because they're so sort of sticking to their guns with it, it makes you feel like maybe there is some sort of grand plan, some like overarching strategy going on, but it just looks like absolute chaos. And I don't know, we were talking about this before, like they clearly need to shift some players now because the squad is ridiculously big and they're all going to be really unhappy this year sitting on the bench or not even in the squad. But now clubs know that they need to sell players, so surely everybody knows that Chelsea are going to be accepting way lower prices than what these players are worth.
Yeah, they're
unless they're happy for them to just rot.
Yeah, do you remember that was that story last season that there weren't enough spaces in the dressing room to get dressed and people having to change on the floor.
Yeah, I think didn't
Like at
they?
school.
I think they had to sort of like knock down a wall in the changing room to extend it or something.
Really good.
Yeah.
Here's a stat for you. So they've spent another 185 million on 11 more signings this summer, which means that under Todd Boehly, Chelsea have now spent more in 2 years than most clubs have in their entire history. There's a chart, and it's ranked English clubs by money spent on transfer fees ever. Number one is Chelsea. They've spent 3.87 billion. Number two is Man City, who've spent $1 billion less. In 10th place is Chelsea under Todd Boehly with 1.32 billion. They've spent more than Everton, Southampton, Wolves, Leicester, Fulham, loads of clubs. Every other club in English football apart
in
from the
their
top
entire
9.
history.
Yeah, and this is 2 years worth of spending.
Yeah.
It's mental. And they don't even have a shirt sponsor for this season yet. So you kind of think
I don't know. How are they managing to make this work with the FFP stuff?
So everyone's asking that. I turned to football finance expert Kieran Maguire, who is a sometime shotter and listener, and he said Chelsea have sold car parks, hotels, and their women's team to another part of the Chelsea group at a huge profit, which to me seems, how is that within, like, how's that allowed within the rules? That's just financial, like, jiggery pokery.
Yeah.
But he says it is allowed within the rules. But I swear this is the sort of thing that Man City are getting done for.
Yeah, didn't Man City, part of the Man City investigation centres on, I think it's Roberto Mancini's salary there when he was paid X amount for being Man City manager, but was then also given a second role as a consultant or something for a team in Abu Dhabi that he had to work like one day a year, and then his salary was exactly the same for that as it was at
Do you think that's
Man
just
City?
him like he has a phone call once a year with the manager of that club? He's like, yeah, you want the goalkeeper, play out from the back.
Yes.
Okay, best wishes. Just literally phoning it in.
Yeah.
Anyway, apparently it's legit. And then Kieran said they've also made sales of academy players in the last 3 years. So like Mason Mount, they sold for 60 million, which is pure profit you can use for FFP. Probably why they sold him. And over the last decade, they've had profits from player sales of 750 million compared to Man United 150. So I think there is some dry powder there for Todd Boehly to just hoover up.
Yeah.
It's not going to last very long though. I still think it ends badly. Like all these players you're buying for shitloads, unless you sell them for more, it's going to be ugly. Anyway, that's probably enough financial analysis.
Do you think Chelsea outsiders for relegation this year if it goes badly?
I think their destiny is Everton, and I think Everton are going down this season or next. Which would be really funny if their first season in their new stadium is in the Championship.
Yeah, it would be.
But I think Chelsea are on that trajectory too. I personally don't think they come back from this. I think this is financial ruin.
Do you think? To see Chelsea go down this season would be hilarious.
We did a Twitter thread on Chelsea under Todd Boehly this week, just like all the chaos. And we got so many messages just being like, how much did Arsenal pay you to write this?
Yeah.
Like, what are you on about? Surely you can appreciate that your club has had a pretty funny few years.
Yeah, the comments on Twitter are just so funny.
Yeah.
These like deluded Chelsea fans who think that, I don't know, we've got some kind of agenda. It is just funny.
I mean, my agenda is I do want to see Chelsea relegated because it's fun.